phone works. All righty. This is not ESPN's 30 for 30, but it is my 98 for 98. The 98 seasons in the history of the New York Football Giants. I'm going to try to get it done in 98 days. Probably not going to happen, but I'm going to try to get it done before the beginning of the regular season, which starts on September 10th against the Dallas Cowboys. We're forging our way. We're into the 60s. We're at the 1962 season for the New York Giants, which just happened to be the 38th season in history of the New York Giants. 38th season in the history of the New York Giants. 43rd season in the history of the NFL, because the Giants started in 1925. NFL started in 1920. So the Giants are 5 years younger than the NFL. This was 1962. Good season for the Giants. They got to the championship game once again. They hosted the championship game. They lost again. The 1962 Green Bay Packers can be arguably one of the, if not the greatest teams. People are going to argue that they got 72 Dolphins, 62 Packers. You got the Bears. You got obviously the 07 Patriots who lost, but you got the 1940 to 1941. The Bears. I mean, phenomenal teams then. It's tough talking about the championship game. I mean, just a lot of things went against the Giants. A lot of things. I mean, the Giants were a passing team. The Packers were a running team. So the 25 to 30 to 40 mile an hour wind gusts in Yankee Stadium didn't help the Giants' cause at all. The Packers ran and set up their pass because they had, I'm going to show you some stats, I'll tell you some stats and all that. The Packers had like 175 yards a game. I mean, their defense was great. I mean, they ran the ball. And, then you got to start, paying attention to the run. I mean, why not? They have two Hall of Famers, Jim Taylor and Paul Hornung. What's up today? Yep. First one ever. It was a tie. First one ever. Yep. But I mean, they ran the ball. But then that set up the pass. The Giants were more of a pass. I mean, they had Del Schaffner, who they just got. Well, I'm still not. I don't know why he's not in the Hall of Fame. But anyway, so you got a Hall of Fame quarterback who throws the ball to Frank Gifford, Hall of Fame player. Del Schaffner, to me, a borderline Hall of Fame wide receiver, who's a very good wide receiver. So the Giants passed the ball. Wyatt Tittle led the league in touchdown passes with 33. So the Giants passed the ball, and of course, the 30 mile an hour really hurt, their chances. There's just, I will go over the championship game, but let's get rocking and rolling here with the season. I'll talk more about the championship game, but once again, things just went wrong for the Giants. I mean, that's why I hate talking about some of this stuff. But 1962 NFL season was the 43rd season in the history of the National Football League. 43rd season for the NFL, 38 for the New York Giants. Before the season, CBS signed a contract with the league to televise all regular season games for a $4.65 million annual fee. So they paid over $4.5 million to televise all of the games, regular season games. They did that because CBS, there was no Monday Night Football. It didn't start until 1970. So CBS did the NFL. I believe NBC did the AFL football. The season ended on December 30th when the Green Bay Packers defeated the New York Giants 16-7 in the NFL championship game at Yankee Stadium. The Packers successfully defended their 1961 NFL title, finishing the 1962 season at 14-1. Their only loss was the Thanksgiving Day Massacre against the Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving Day in Detroit. The 1962 NFL Draft was held on December 4th, 1961 at Chicago's Sheraton Hotel and Towers. With the first pick, the Washington Redskins selected running back Ernie Davis from Syracuse University. Now, you're going to start noticing kind of like a little bit of a theme here. A lot of the Giants, the drafts just started becoming – the Giants started doing some trading to get other ball players, so they traded away draft picks, and a lot of their picks that they had, were not good. So the cupboard started getting bare. The Giants had some real good players on their team, and we're getting into the 60s, and a lot of them started getting old. Just a bunch of them. Andy Robustelli, Dick Modulewski, who they traded away. A lot of guys, Wyatt Tittle, he only played till 1964. Alex Webster played till 1964. Frank Gifford played till 1964. Andy Robustelli in 1964. But after 62, this was the last game that Rosie Greer played for the Giants. They traded him away to try to get younger and all. So, the Giants started getting older. And between trading away their guys and the guys just getting older and retiring, the Giants did not replace them with good draft picks. So therefore, that's kind of set up their 2-10-2 season in 1964. Also set up their 1-12-1 season in 1966 because their drafts were just not good. So you're going to start noticing a little theme here with their draft picks. Let's see. Major rule changes: grabbing any player's face mask is prohibited. Ooh, any. The Hall of Fame game, the preseason Hall of Fame game in Canton, Ohio. There we go, right? Debuted this year. Here you go, Teddy, right? Following the morning groundbreaking for the Pro Football Hall of Fame on Saturday, August 11th, the New York Giants and the St. Louis Cardinals played the first Hall of Fame game ever to a 21-21 draw. The conference races. There really weren't much of a conference race here. Because the Packers were, 13-1, and the Giants were 12-2. But the Packers were just unbelievable. Packers scored 415 points in 14 games. They averaged almost 30 points a game. They gave up 148 in 14 games. So basically, they averaged scoring 30 points a game. Basically, they averaged giving up 10 points a game. That's a hell of a differential right there. Another reason why they were 13-1. Just unbelievable team. The Green Bay Packers won the first 10 games until losing 26-14 on November 22nd at Detroit. The Lions' win would put them a game behind the Pack rather than 2 games behind. But in the final week, they lost to Chicago 3-0. Even a Lions win would have been made moot when Green Bay won 20-17 at LA to finish with a record of 13-1. Their one loss, the Packers' one loss was on Thanksgiving against the Lions. There's known as the Thanksgiving Day Massacre. The Lions revenged an early 9-7 loss in Green Bay. That really ticked the Lions off. The Lions were winning 7-6. There was about 2 minutes or so to go in the game, whatever it was. The Lions, I remember it was a third down or not. Their quarterback dropped back. I think it was Mel Plum dropped back to pass, threw the ball. It was like the guy ran like an out pattern, I guess it was, 10 and out or something. Well, I think Plum, that was their quarterback, throws the ball where he's supposed to be. Of course, the Packers also got luck on their side as well, too. Everything, went their way as well, too, right? Including this game. The Lions outplayed the Packers. The Lions were winning 7-6. Couple minutes to go. The Lions defense was really doing a phenomenal job. But Mel Plum, so instead of, I guess, running the ball, chewing up the clock, they decided to pass the ball to go try to get the first down. So as I forgot who the wide receiver was for the Lions, he runs the pattern, runs the 5 and out or 10 and out or whatever it was. And as he's making his turn, of course, as I said, a lot of things went the Packers' way. So as he's turning, he slips and falls. So the ball goes where he was supposed to be, but I can't remember who the Green Bay Packer was. Who just happened to be standing there, picked the pass off because the ball went to him instead of the wide receiver who fell down. So the Packers picked the ball off, ran it down to like around the 10 or 15-yard line. Guy got tackled there. Paul Hornung, as I guess as the clock expired, where kicked a real short field goal, and the Packers won 9-7. Well, this really infuriated the Lions, and they exacted their revenge on Thanksgiving Day. They killed the Packers. It was 26-14. It wasn't that close. The Packers, the Lions sacked Bart Starr. I think it was 11 times. They really did just. I think it was 26-0 at one point, and then the Packers scored a couple late touchdowns. But the Lions were a very good team that year, and the Lions, came very close to possibly winning as well too. But anyway, I mean, it was pretty much the Packers were just a phenomenal team that year. In the Eastern Conference, as far as the Eastern Conference races, the Redskins were unbeaten after 6 games. Their 4 wins and 2 ties would have been an 833 record in later years, but in 1962, a tie was not counted at all. In Week 7, October 28th, the Giants handed the Skins their first loss, 49-34. When Washington lost again the next week, 38-10 to Dallas, the Giants' 31-28 win over St. Louis gave them a 6-2 record and the conference lead. The Giants rode a 9-game winning streak to capture the Eastern title and then the right to host the championship game against the Packers. Yeah, the Giants lost the first game of the season. Then they lost again. It was like week 5 or 6 or whatever it was or something. Then they won the rest of their games. And the Giants' defense was not, as formidable as it had been in the past, but they scored a lot of points. This was also, 1962 was also the only season that Jim Brown did not win the rushing title. That went to Jim Taylor. I mean, the Packers just, they were an unbelievable running team. The Playoff Bowl. The Playoff Bowl was between the conference runners-up for 3rd place in the league. This was a 3rd year of 10, and it was played a week after the title game. The two runners-up were the Pittsburgh Steelers, who were 9-5, and the Detroit Lions were 11-3. Detroit won 17-10 at the Orange Bowl, Miami, Florida, on January 6, 1963. Most valuable player was Jim Taylor, the fullback from Green Bay. And the coach of the year went to Allie Sherman, the New York Giants. This was Allie Sherman's 2nd season as the head coach. The problem was that we got the 3 championship games. The Giants did 61, 62, 63. The problem was that their offense scored a total of 10 points in those 3 games. Can't win any games, championship games, not scoring any points. All right, so we go to the draft. The 1962 NFL draft was held on December 4th, 1961 at the Sheraton Hotel in Chicago, Illinois. The Washington Redskins used the first overall pick to select running back Ernie Davis. Then they traded him to the Cleveland Browns, which wound up being good, sad, but good, because Ernie Davis was a phenomenal athlete. Well, they wound up getting Bobby Mitchell for it. So it wound up really working out well, because unfortunately Ernie Davis wound up, I forgot what he had, if it was leukemia or something, but he wound up he didn't want to play him. So the Redskins traded him away, and basically Ernie Davis, what they were trying to do was team Ernie Davis up with Jim Brown. Holy moly. Wow. What a backfield that would have been. But because also Ernie Davis and Jim Brown were both from Syracuse University. Well, we'll notice, I mean, the Giants, their drafts were just not very good. They did draft Jerry Hillebrand, my bad, in the first round. He played a few years for the Giants, 5 years, and he was not a phenomenal linebacker. He was a linebacker. They picked him in the first round from Colorado. He played 5 years for the Giants, but nothing super spectacular. But there was 20 rounds in the draft. But I'll just go over the first 10 picks for the Giants, the first 10 rounds. They didn't even have 10 picks. Second round, they took Bob, love this name, Bob Bill, they took. A tackle from Notre Dame. Third round, they didn't have a pick. Fourth round, they took Glenn Griffin, a quarterback from Ole Miss. That was a bad pick. Round 5, Giants had back-to-back picks, my bad. Bookie Bolin, there you go, a guard from Ole Miss. That was about the 742nd player that they took from Ole Miss at that point. They took so many players from Ole Miss. According to some dude, Eli Manning, too, right? Round 5 with pick 59. The Giants had back-to-back picks in the 5th round. Back-to-back misses, shall we say. Then they took Curtis Miranda, a center from Florida A&M. Round 6, Giants took Bill Triplett, a back from Miami, Ohio. Round 7, the Giants took Ken Byers, a tackle from Cincinnati. Round 8, Giants didn't have a pick. Round 9, Giants took Reed Bohovich, a tackle from Lehigh. There you go. Another swing and miss there. Round 10, the Giants took J.R. Williams, a center from Fresno State. There you go. Another swing and a miss right there. I mean, they absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. 20 rounds, pretty much absolutely nothing in this draft. Another horrible draft for the New York Giants. And that's why their cupboard was getting bare. Guys were retiring, getting old. They started trading away some guys and all that, and they just couldn't replace them with anybody good because their drafts absolutely stunk. All right, so then I'll go over the Giants. Briefly here, the Giants. We'll go over their record. Yeah, I mean, they started the season 2004 Hall of Fame was also a tie. Oh, there you go. A lot of ties in Hall of Fame game. But the 1962, they first game of the season, they lost to the Browns 17-7 on the road. This year, their first 4 games were on the road. Usually the Giants, except for last year, right? But usually anywhere from their first 2 to their first 4 games were always on the road. They shared this Yankee Stadium with the Yankees, right? So I'm guessing they wanted to make sure the baseball season was over with, the World Series was over with. They want to make sure, that the Giants can go in there, I guess, pretty much chew up the field, and it wouldn't affect, I'm believing, the Yankees. So the Giants' first 4 games of the season were all on the road. They lost the first game on September 16th to the Browns 17-7. Then the Giants would win. The Giants finished 12-2. So the Giants won 12 of their next 13 games. The Giants' defense was not really phenomenal. I mean, it was decent, adequate. They gave up 20 points a game, which was not super spectacular, but they scored 28 points a game. So with Y.A. Till throwing 33 touchdown passes, their offense really took off. I mean, 28 points a game. That'll win you a lot of ball games. All right, so then the Giants won their next 3 games. They beat the Eagles on Sunday, September 23rd in Philadelphia, 29-13. Then on Sunday, September 30th, in Pittsburgh, they beat the Steelers 31-27. Then the following week in St. Louis, on Sunday, October 7th, they beat the Cardinals 31-14. Now the Giants are 3-1. They took a step back when they played their first home game of the season, Sunday, October 14th, against the Steelers. They lost 20-17. Now the Giants are 3-2. They got to start winning. Thankfully, the Giants won their next 9 ball games. Let's see, they beat Detroit and the Detroit Lions 17-14 at home on Sunday, October 21st. The following week at home against the Redskins on Sunday, October 28th, they beat the Redskins 49-34. Giants had over 600 yards of offense. They had over 500 passing yards. I mean, just over 500 yards passing. All right, then Sunday, November 4th, at home against the St. Louis Cardinals, they won 31-28. Then they went to Dallas. They played the Cowboys in Dallas on Sunday, November 11th, and they won 41-10. The following week at home against the Eagles on Sunday, November 18th, they won 19-14. Then on the road, the following week, they beat the Washington Redskins on Sunday, November 28th in Washington. They won 42-24. The next week in Chicago against the Bears, they won a squeaker, 26-24. That was on Sunday, December 2nd. Then the final 2 games of the season, Sunday, December 9th, at home against the Browns. They got a little revenge on the Browns, and they won 17-13. Final game of the season at home against the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday, December 16th. They beat the Dallas Cowboys 41-31. Then it was 2 weeks off before the championship game. The last game of the season was December 16th. They had 2 weeks off until they played December 30th. All right, against the Green Bay Packers. I said, I mean, the Green Bay Packers were just, yeah. I said, here we go. I said the Giants. Where are we at here? Let's go passing stats here. The Giants threw 35 touchdown passes. They had 22 interceptions, but they had 35 touchdown passes. Giants only had 11 rushing touchdowns all year. It was 35 and 11. 35 passing touchdowns for the Giants, 11 rushing touchdowns for the Giants, 35 and 11. The Packers had 14 passing touchdowns, 36 rushing touchdowns. They had 36 rushing touchdowns. So they had 50 touchdowns altogether between rushing and passing. So basically they averaged like 3.5 touchdowns a game. But they had 36 rushing touchdowns. They averaged 175 yards a game rushing the ball. I mean, they just Jim Taylor led the league. He had 1,474 rushing touchdowns. He had 19 rushing yards. He had 19 rushing touchdowns, Jim Taylor. I mean, between Jim Taylor, Tom Moore, and Paul Hornung, I mean, they just, a lot of guys. Just really, their offensive line, they were a machine, absolute machine. But the one thing was that they were so effective running the ball. When it was time to pass, it opened up their pass game. Bart Starr, didn't really. Their team, the Packers, had 14 passing touchdowns, 13 interceptions. So that wasn't super spectacular. But what was they completed. Bart Starr completed 62.5% of his passes. Why? Because they could run the ball so well. Their good running game opened up the pass game. So 62.5% completion percentage going back 60 years ago. It's very, very good. But a lot of it was, their running game was just phenomenal. As I said, their defense was great too. They only gave up 10 points a game. I mean, the first 4 games of the season, they gave up 14 points. They had 2 shutouts and they gave up 2 touchdowns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of their 14 games, they gave up less than 10 points. I mean, the most points they gave up in a game was 26 to the Lions. Yeah. But they scored 49. They beat the Bears 49-0. They beat Minnesota 48-21. They beat the Bears again 38-7. They beat the Eagles 49-0. This one, they killed the Eagles. Absolutely killed the Eagles. The Packers had 37 first downs. The Eagles had 3. 37-3 in first downs. The Packers had 628. This is the biggest differential in NFL history as far as yardage. The Packers had 628 yards of offense. The Eagles had 54. So what is that? My spider senses are telling me. Is that 26? Okay, 26. 574-yard differential in yards. The Packers had 574 more yards, offensive yards, than the Eagles did in this one game. They had 34 more first downs. They held the Eagles to 3 first downs, beat them 49-0. That's domination. Then they also beat the Rams 41-10. I mean, they just phenomenal team. Then they beat obviously the Giants in the championship game 16-7, but they were outgained. Giants had 291 yards. Packers had 244. The problem was for the Giants. There's a couple of problems here. It's just one of these things. It's just a gut punch. It just the Giants had 3 turnovers. Packers didn't have a turnover. Between the 1961 championship game and the 1962 championship game, I think the Giants had 8 turnovers. Packers didn't have a turnover. So the Giants lost 37-0 in the 1961 championship game. 1962, they lost 16. They had 3 turnovers, and every one of the turnovers cost the Giants. Every one. They fumbled the ball. I believe they fumbled it in the second half. It was the third quarter. They fumbled the ball deep in their own territory. The Packers recovered it, kicked the field goal. So that's 3 points off of 1 turnover. The Giants fumbled the ball with about 3 minutes to go in the first half. It was 3-0. Giants they ran the ball a couple times. They were trying to maybe get a first down or whatever. Maybe try to get a field goal. So it was like 3 minutes left to go in the first half. Handed the ball off. I forgot who the running back was. Got hit right away. Fumbled the ball. Ray Nitschke, I think, landed on it. Gave the Packers good field position at the 28. I think Paul Hornung hit a halfback option pass, got him down to like the 7 or 8 yard line. Might have been the next play. Jim Taylor runs it in for a touchdown. Gives him 7 points off of a turnover. I mean, the Giants had the best punter in the league. So even if the Giants had to punt the ball, they would have punted the ball, would have been down. The Packers would have had to go about 70 yards to go with maybe a minute to go. And they weren't, I mean, maybe they could have gotten a field goal or something, maybe. But they weren't moved. Not with their offense. They weren't, and not in that wind. They were not passing the ball 70 yards and not going 70 yards in a minute to score a touchdown. It wasn't happening. The fumble gave them 7 points. So the fumble in the second half gave the Packers 3 points. So the Giants, 2 turnovers gave the Packers 10 points. Giants lost 16-7. The Giants in the first quarter, I believe it was first quarter, we're driving. They got down around like the 15-yard line, 18-yard line, somewhere around there. Tail goes back to pass, throws the ball tips up in the air. Dan Curry, I believe his name is, the linebacker. He's just standing there. The ball goes up in the air. Of course, it goes right to him. Doesn't go to anybody else. Goes to a Packer, right to a Packer. Intercepts the ball. So the Giants, I'm saying if he throws a couple interceptions, a couple incompletions, or they just run the ball, something like that, they have like a 20-yard field goal. Good chance. Don Chandler, who is a very good kicker, chance he might make that. That might give the Giants 3 points. But the interception wipes out 3 points for the Giants. So the Packers got 10 points off 2 Giants turnovers. The Giants lost by probably just 3 points because of an interception. That's 13 points because of the 3 turnovers. 13 points. The Giants also ended the game, they had to score. The Packers kicked a field goal to make it 16-7 with about 3 minutes to go in the game, somewhere around there. And that basically made it 2 scores. It's 9 points. Yeah, the game was pretty much over then. But the Giants got the ball. They marched down the field, and I think they ended the game at the Packers' 10-yard line. They were pretty much had to go for, I guess, trying to go for a touchdown. But, I mean, if they only needed a field goal, they got to the 10 or 15-yard line, they could have kicked the field goal. So they ended the game. They could have possibly had another 3 points. So the 3 points they lost because of the interception. The 3 points they lost at the end of the game, not kicking a field goal. The 10 points that the Packers got because the other. I mean, you're looking at, the Giants lost by 9 points. There was 16 points there with between the turnovers and at the end of the game, the Giants outgained them. I said the Giants passing game was really affected because of the 40-mile-an-hour wind, 25 to 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts. It was just a lot of things just went, The only thing is that the Packers were obviously a fantastic team. They didn't beat themselves. The Giants beat themselves, with the turnovers and all. Packers didn't do that. And the only Giants points was when Erich Barnes blocked the Max McGee punt and Jim Collier fell on it in the end zone. Those are the only points the Giants got. They didn't score any points offensively. So, their 7 points, came off of, a block punt. But even if you take that off the board, right? If you take that off the board, so you take the 7 points off the board the Giants got from a block punt. Now it's 16-0. Well, the Packers got 10 points from 2 Giant turnovers. 2 fumbles led to a field goal and a touchdown. So now the Packers, you take 10 points off there. So now the Packers have 6 points. The Giants had threw the interception in the first quarter. If they didn't throw an interception, possibly they kick a field goal there. Now the Giants, now it's 6-3. The Giants ended the game on the Packers' 10-yard line. Possibly they can kick a field goal there. So, a lot of things went, I said the only thing pretty much went the Giants' way in this game was when they blocked the punt and they scored 7 points. Other than that, just said they outgained the Packers. they had chances, but I said they just wound up blowing. It was just a gut punch, But I said, I mean, that was the problem with the Giants. And they're 61 and 62 to 2 championship games. They only scored 7 points, and they didn't score 1 point offensively in the 2 championship games. And it's tough to win. But I mean, that's what it was back then. I mean, a lot of the championship games had stories to them. Whether it's bad field conditions, whether it was windy, whether the field was icy, whether it was real. I mean, it was very cold there too, right? I mean, nowadays you got the fields are like a perfect condition. A lot of times, sometimes the games are indoors in dome stadiums and stuff. And I mean, back then things were really, really, really different. And this one was affected a lot because of the windy conditions. But I mean, it's hard to argue. I mean, the Green Bay Packers from 1962 were one of the best teams of all time. So the Giants fell a little bit short. I mean, the record of 12-2 was very, very good. Now, Y.A. Tittle would have one more career year, banner year, right? It came in 1963. He would throw for 36 touchdown passes. So he had 33 touchdown passes in 1962. Well, he got even better in 1963, threw for 36. And that record stood until I think Dan Marino wound up breaking it in the 80s. So that stood for a long time until it got broken. But so the Giants in 1963, once again, they win the division, go back to the championship game. Once again, they would lose. This one, the story was, once again, it was in Chicago, bitterly cold. And obviously, we're talking about the 62 season, so I don't want to talk too much about the 63 season. But in the 63 championship game, the reason why the Giants lost that one was because Wyatt Tittle, I think, threw 5 interceptions. I got to look. I think he threw maybe like 5 interceptions, a bunch of interceptions. But 2 of them were picked off. They were on screen passes. The Bears were ready for the screen passes. So Bears picked off 2 screen passes. One got run back inside the 5-yard line. So the Bears scored a touchdown on like a 4-yard drive. The Bears scored 2 touchdowns. One was a 4-yard drive. And the other one got picked off and run back to like the 14 or so. So the Bears scored 2 touchdowns on 2 drives that combined total didn't even add up to 20 yards. That's how the Giants lost that one. It just, well, it is what it is. But I mean, the 1962 season for the New York Giants was very, very successful. They were 12-2. Just unfortunately wasn't just meant to be. And they lost to arguably one of the greatest, if not the greatest, NFL team in NFL history, coached by Vince Lombardi. So it is what it is. But that wraps up the 1962 season for the New York Giants. I'll be back again tomorrow with the 1963 season for the New York Giants, which just happened to be the 39th season in the history of the New York Giants. I'll see you then.